The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob and Ronnie.
Accident or injury, call Jacob and Ronnie. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason along with Sue Kalinsky. Great show today. We're going to talk a little bit about the movie Rebirth with the star and Independent Spirit Award nominee Judy Reyes. And we're also going to wrap up the season of True Detective, which was amazing. It was an amazing finale. In the meantime, Sue, you lost your puppy dog.
I did. Little Tucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old was Tucker?
He was 17.
Wow, that's an
was,
unbelievable run.
He was the Dick Clark of dogs. He was two when we adopted him. We were told he had a heart murmur as we were walking out the door of the shelter. It's like, oh, by the way, he has a heart murmur. We were like,
oh, wow.
See ya. You know, but it never came into play. I mean, he lived to be 17. But even though he lived to be 17, not enough years, no matter what.
Yeah. Never enough.
And I kept on thinking about different animals that live really, really long, like ridiculous lengths of time, like a tortoise, like what, 200-something years old?
Yeah, there's a tortoise right now that they estimate has lived for 191 years. That's insane.
So like, and like parrots, some parrots live till like 120 or 150.
Wow.
And it's like, really? I mean, like they end up going to your funeral. You know, it's like, I mean, just to have a pet that long where you have to make arrangements, you know, before you die, what's going to happen to your, you know? So I think that it would be so great if like tortoises or parrots can kind of give some of their years to the longevity of a dog.
I think it's a really valid point. I'm not sure how we would pull it off, but I completely agree with you. We've got an 18-year-old beagle named Sophie, and she shows no signs of shows no signs of slowing down.
Really?
Yeah, none.
What do you feed her?
Well, she's on a lot of medication. She's on Prozac. She's on hydrocodone. I'm not sure why exactly, but we put her on an oxy. She has a little inhaler that she uses because she's got COPD. It's the lengths we go to for our dogs. It is really incredible.
You see her online trying to get oxy. Huh?
Yeah. You know, it made me think of when you first get to know your dog. You got Tucker when he was 2. I got my dog. I always say there's such a thing as a dog of a lifetime. And I think my dog of a lifetime was Hollis. He's the one that I connected to the most emotionally. I mean, I love them all, but Hollis was like the dog that really is completely in my heart. Do you believe in that concept of dog of a lifetime?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, and I don't want to, you know, make it sound like I had favorites because, look, I know my parents had definitely one favorite in the family and it wasn't me. So I know that happens. I would say Charlie, personality-wise, temperament-wise, he just was a different soul than my other dogs. And I love them all and miss them all dearly. Yes. But he was the one that I connected with the most. Yeah.
I think the reason why Hollis was, it's sort of like where you are in life too, right? So I got Hollis the day I moved to New York for that show at WNEW. So Hollis came with me, and Hollis was with me through like a really challenging time in my life. And so I bonded with him in different way than my other dogs. Now, I'll say this. I mean, we've got 3 dogs now. We've got Sophie, who's 18. And Sophie is Juan's dog of a lifetime, without question. We've got Ron, who's like, we call him the little weirdo. He is definitely a weirdo. And then we have Veronica, who has a chance to be on the list of dogs with... I never thought I would be as bonded to a dog like Hollis before, but Veronica is like that for me. And my favorite time of the night is about 4 a.m. Veronica will crawl up to my my face, paw my face a little bit, and then I'll let her under the covers, and she sleeps like right here in the crook of my arm under the covers. I'm like, that is my favorite time of night. My favorite time of night. I look forward to that.
Yeah, you know, over the years, especially with Tucker, because he was the first little dog we ever had. So you see the evolution of what they started to do, and then when they stopped doing that. Like Tucker used to do that. He used to come in the bed. He used to sleep like on Tom's shoulder, and then he would go underneath the blanket towards our feet. And we were so nervous that he was going to stop breathing because we were worried that the blankets were so heavy and he didn't have air down there. And then as years went on and he got older and older, you know, it got to the point where, you know, he didn't come on the bed anymore. And we were like, really, dude? What do you mean you're not coming on the bed anymore? I mean,
that's part of the...
That's part of the deal.
Part. Yeah.
That's part of the deal that you made with us, that you were a bed dog, you know? So those things kind of changed. And now, you know, I kind of felt guilty because, you know, he was sick, and, you know, we knew it was time. But I started thinking about, well, who's going to be the next dog? And this is the first time in my life, in like 30 years that there's no dog in my house. So I thought maybe we would take a little bit of a break. And the other day I came home, and, you know, coming home was just so sad. Yeah. And I said to Tom, I just don't think I can handle this. We need to have a dog. And he said, just say the word. So, you know, we went online and we're kind of looking, and, you know, but you got to just go. I mean, I'm looking online, and I don't want a full breed dog. I want a mix. Yeah. Because I just love the personalities of mixes. Yeah. And I think that a lot of times there's a lot of, you know, inbreeding and crap that happens with dogs that are purebred. So, so we're going to go to the shelter. But okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's the way we roll here. When we've lost a dog, and we've lost a few, we immediately go to a shelter and pick one. I don't know how to be without a dog. I've had a dog for 35 years or 40 years now. I've always had one. And I'm like, I don't know what I would do without a dog.
Well, it's, you know, you have a certain routine. It's just my life, you know, and things that we've created with, especially with Tucker, because he was an only dog after Charlie. You know, we said goodbye to Charlie. So, you know, at night before we go to bed, he knew he got a cookie before he before we went to bed. So he would come to Tom's side of the bed and just stare at him and wait for his cookie, follow him around while he was getting ready to go to bed. You know, in the morning, you know, I'd take him for a walk, and then in early evening, take him for a walk. So all these activities have completely gone away. And so anyway, so we're going to go Sunday. But something we were talking about off the air, I know I have a friend who's talked about wanting to clone his dog because he's like so attached and wants to have basically the same dog. Now, I don't know if I would go that far. First of all, it's probably ridiculously expensive. But if someone even gave me the money, I don't know, because I don't know if all of the traits of your dog go along with the cloning. Like,
would the personality be there?
Is it just going to look like my dog? Yeah. Or is it going to be my dog? I don't know if that all is a part of it. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I absolutely would not clone my dog. It just seems like it's like that movie Pet Sematary, the Stephen King movie. You just don't know how. Even the movie we're going to talk about, Rebirth. If you reanimate something, is it going to be the same? And I don't think a dog that is cloned would be the same as the dog that you had.
Yeah, and we're all about rescuing animals.
Yes,
So there's
exactly.
way too many animals that are here. So
Yes.
I wanna save a dog's life.
Good. Well, I'm excited to see. By the way, we're in a sort of brand new studio situation.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I put together this. I'm gonna say I put together this backdrop. What do you
You
think?
did not.
Well, I mean, I had help.
together.
I had help.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what do you
Thank
think of
God
the
for one.
backdrop?
I love it. I love the Chinatown poster. I love the little bookshelf with. So that's an elephant, and an elephant in a certain direction means something, right?
Well, an elephant is generally like Ganesh, the remover of obstacles. I've got a Ganesh tattoo on my chest. People never believe I have a tattoo, but I do.
Yeah, you don't. See
Have you
that
seen it?
person.
You've seen it, right?
You've showed it to me, but I was very surprised when you told me because you just don't seem like a tattoo person.
I'm
whatever
such a
that is.
I'm working on a sleeve right now.
I have 2 tattoos, and people
Really?
are surprised about that. So
Yeah. Where are they located?
one is on my left shoulder.
Okay.
and
What's
it's a
that one of?
bird. It's a bird. It's stupid. It never healed properly, and I got it redone, and I hate it.
Why'd you get a
And-
bird?
I just got a bird. There was no. I went to the tattoo parlor, looked at pictures of tattoos, and said that one. That was
So
like
it really
19.
means something.
19. No, it meant nothing. It was just rebellious, and I knew my Jewish parents were going to flip out. My father was very upset. My mother really had no reaction, which kind of surprised me. My father thought I had dirt on my back because I lived in Florida and I was wearing a bathing suit. And we were out by the pool, and every time I was out by the pool, I would walk backwards.
Yeah.
I was around him, so he
So he didn't see it?
he didn't see my back. And then I had turned at one point. He's like, "What is that? What is that, dirt?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of permanent." And why did you do that? And I was like, "Well, because I just did it." I don't
What's
know.
tattoo number 2?
And tattoo number 2 is a blue rose that's kind of on my abdomen, kind of low down on my abdomen.
And what was the meaning of that one?
Just a picture on a wall.
It was a picture on the wall?
Well, that when you go into a tattoo parlor,
Oh,
well,
I
at least when I went many years ago, and they would have pictures on the wall to give you an idea of a tattoo that you may want.
It's so random, though. Like, they don't really mean anything.
I just like the way it looked,
Okay.
and I didn't want to get like a red rose and be like everybody else, so I got a blue rose.
Greg Bergman, who's my producer at ESPN, he's got a bunch of tattoos, but the one I love is on his forearm. He's got that tattoo of a microphone with Vin Scully's signature.
Oh wow,
That's very cool. Very cool.
Very cool.
All right, so let's talk about True Detective,
All right.
which for me is the best TV show in a while. By the time this comes out, you better have seen it. We're going to talk about it and spoil some stuff right now if you haven't. What did you think of the finale of True Detective?
I was a little disappointed. A little bit, only because I don't like sometimes when I have to think about what the hell was that? Like the movie goes black and the credits come and I'm like, no, you didn't finish telling me what happened. This is crazy. So sometimes it's fun when things are left up to your imagination. And it's a great talking point. Like, well, what do you think that meant? What do you think that meant? And sometimes I want to know. So
Right.
I was a little disappointed, but some of the turn that the show took, I really, really appreciated because it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And there was a period in the middle of the series where I wouldn't say I was getting bored, but I felt like it slowed down a little bit. It was kind of a little redundant. It was like, okay, let's get to this because I know that it's going to be a short season.
Yeah,
So let's get to
only
it. Let's
6
get to it.
episodes. Yeah,
6 episodes. Yeah. So anyway, but I do like what was revealed in the last episode.
yeah, because the weird guys frozen in the ice thing, with those terrified looks on their faces. I was like, well, how are they going to explain this? I figured it was going to be something supernatural or some, you know, I believe the Inuits, you know, had a story about a monster or a beast or whatever that was. And they did manage to explain it. It made perfect and total sense at the end, how those guys got there and how they died the way they did, which I thought was genius. It made complete and total sense. I love the details of characters in this show. There was one little nugget. John Hawkes played a character named Hank Pryor, who was a police officer. And there's one scene, and I think it's on Christmas Eve, where he goes to the airport and he's waiting for this woman who he's been corresponding with, and he thinks they're going to be together. And I think his son jokes it's a mail order bride, whatever it happens to be. But he goes to the airport and she doesn't come. And he's heartbroken, but moves on. But that's like the little sort of details about characters that I absolutely loved. I also loved the character Rose Agnew, who was the one out in the like on the ice, right by the ice, the one who helps dispose of the bodies.
She was the one who was taken to the bodies. Someone showed her that the bodies were there.
Oh, right. But I'm talking about when Pete took his dad out there.
Oh, at the end. Okay.
At the end. And they push him into the ocean. But I was like, she's such an interesting character. She had a backstory. And the actress was named Fiona Shaw.
Great.
She was so good, like weird and mystical and stuff like that. And there's a lot that's open to interpretation. Like, for example, this is the one that I'm baffled by. How did the tongue get into the lab?
It's one of these, you know, it's open to interpretation. Like, how did it get there? Why wasn't it disposed of? Whoever cut her tongue out? Like, why did it remain there? But to me, what was so interesting, and I didn't remember this because the first season of True Detective was actually my favorite, the one with
Matthew McConaughey,
and Woody Harrelson. I did not know. Did you read about this? There's all these connections
between season one
and this season with Russ Cole. Is that his name? Matthew McConaughey's character.
Yes.
The guy that directed Rose, the British actress, to Where the Bodies Were.
Yes.
That was his dad. She dated his father.
Oh, no, really?
So there was even talk like, was Matthew McConaughey her daughter, her son?
Her son?
But that they dispelled that. But that was, they did have a relationship. There was a line that Matthew McConaughey said in the first season, time is a flat circle.
Oh, yeah, that came up again.
And that came up with that guy, Clark, who was the boyfriend of the woman that was murdered, who he actually did the deed, the final deed. And then the Tuttle United funded the research station, and the Tuttle family was in Louisiana, and they were very wealthy, and they had a monopoly on so many businesses. So they funded the research station, and Matthew McConaughey's dad actually was originally from Alaska.
Oh, wow. So it does tie it. And apparently at some point, Matthew McConaughey says, and Jodie Foster said this a lot in the season, you're asking the wrong question.
Yeah.
And that's something that Jodie Foster said repeatedly. You're not asking the right question, which I loved. And by the way, it is so great to see Jodie Foster in anything. She is so good. And there are echoes of Silence of the Lambs throughout this, because she's kind of a loner, she's kind of an outsider, she doesn't really get along, and she's sort of out there alone trying to solve this thing. Now, of course, she's got Navarro's help, and Callie Reese is fantastic.
Oh, God,
so good.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I'm left to speculate about the last scene. And the showrunner does not answer this question. This is the writer showrunner. You see Navarro on Danvers' porch at the very end of the episode, at end of the season. And you're wondering, okay, now, is she there? Or is that a ghost or an apparition or a spirit? Because they do show her walking, they show Navarro walking out onto the ice right before that. And you see the toy polar bear on the bed and you assume, okay, that's it for her. Then you cut to Jodie Foster's house and there is Navarro. Now, do you think she's really there or do you think that is an apparition, a spirit?
I think it's a spirit. Because I love that she said, and I don't know, I mean, it could go both ways. When she was being interviewed about the crimes at the end, they asked about Navarro and like, where is she, you know? And she said, you know, what did she say? So you never leave
You
Ennis?
never leave Ennis. Yeah. Nobody ever leaves Ennis.
Nobody ever leaves Ennis. So I don't know whether she was speaking kind of in spirit. You don't leave it?
Yes.
Or is it physical? Because her back was to us, and I think that meant something. I think that was on purpose, obviously, that her back was to us.
Yes.
And I kind of think that she was not there anymore.
Yeah, I agree. Although I've talked to people who believe she walked out onto the ice, she turned around, she came back, and she was for real on Jodie Foster's porch. Which, again, completely open to interpretation. The tongue, I've got no idea. I've got no idea how the tongue of Annie Kay got back to that lab 6 years later. Unless those women brought it, which is the thing that makes the most sense. The women that chased the scientists out into the ice, I think they must have put it there as some sort of message or some sort of omen or some sort of warning about what was coming or how Annie Kay was tied into the lab. But the tongue thing, I think, again, is open to interpretation.
Right. Like, do you think maybe they left it there because that was kind of a clue for an investigation or something? I mean,
yes,
maybe.
If that tongue's not there, they maybe don't connect it to Annie Kay. So maybe they put it there so the connection does happen. I love the fact that stuff is open to interpretation. I love the complexities of that story. I love the characters in that story. I mean, everybody is interesting and everybody's got a unique story, and somehow they packed it into 6 episodes. And let me just say, I love a 6-episode series. Like, I love that it was tight and it was concise and that it wasn't like a gigantic 12-week commitment or 10-week commitment. It's like a really tight 6 episodes I thought was really, really good. So maybe others will start doing that, especially in a scaled down business where people aren't spending as much on shows as they used to, streamers and whatnot. So maybe we'll see more of those. One thing that I thought was very fun, one of my favorite parts of the show was that Jodie Foster's character had slept with basically everybody in town.
I know. That was so perfect.
Everybody she went to interview, she had slept with them or slept with their husband.
It's great.
So damn funny. Such a funny wrinkle. So Jodie Foster, did you see Naiad?
I didn't see the whole thing.
Oh, why is that? You didn't like it? Too much swimming?
Well, you know, I'm going to be doing a triathlon, so.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I think we were just tired and we stopped watching it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I wasn't enjoying it, you know. Sometimes, you know, it's just, we started watching Lost in America the other night, which is one of my favorite movies.
So good. The nest egg.
I know. And Tom was tired. He fell asleep. So I said, okay, we'll watch the rest of it. We watched the rest of it last night.
You're the casino that gives the money back.
I know. Las Vegas gambling. Yeah. So I know I just kind of threw out that I'm doing a triathlon. Like it's.
Yeah, I know you're doing a No, so explain this.
It's a sprint. It's a sprint triathlon. So it's not a full one, but as the guy who heads up the race, because I said, my nephew did a real triathlon. He said, "You're doing a real triathlon." So what it is, it's half a mile swim, then it's a 12.5 mile bike ride, and then a 4 mile run.
That sounds hellacious. That just sounds like an awful, terrible experience. What would make you commit to something like this?
Well, Steve, when you're my age, you want to start doing things that are very challenging, things that I just wanted to do something that I'd never done before. And my nephew is oh God, he's insane. I mean, he came in second in the long trial, the regular Ironman, the Ironman.
In the Ironman?
He came in second in the one in Long Beach. So I went to see him. Tom and I got he did it in Long Beach. It was after he got off the bike and did the run, we went and met him there and then saw him after the run. And there was a guy who had a booth set up who owns a triathlon store in Long Beach. And I just started talking to him. And his wife is a runner. She does like 50-mile runs. She does crazy, crazy competitions.
Wow.
And I said, I belong to a running group. And he said, well, there's going to be this sprint triathlon in April, and you should think about signing up for it. And he told me what it was. And my nephew said, when my nephew came back from the run, he said, I'll help you. I'll train you. He lives in Salt Lake City, so there's no way he's training me. But the training is all part of the package. I don't have to pay anything extra for it. And this Saturday is the first training session. So I got a wetsuit. I've never worn a wetsuit in my life. So I'll swim in the bay in Long Beach.
Sounds awesome.
And I'll bring my bike, and I'll probably do all three. And I don't even know how many miles we're doing, but I got to get in the water, and that's the first official training day.
When is this thing?
It's April 27th.
And I think I saw on Instagram. Is it in Belmore?
No, it's called Bayshore.
Bayshore.
It's Belmont Shore is a part of Long Beach.
Yeah.
And it's called the Bayshore Sprint Triathlon.
Yeah, it sounds awful, but we'll follow your progress.
Okay.
I want to let everybody know. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening. We are really committed to this show. The Culture Pop Podcast is going to roll on for as long as we possibly can. We'll see if Sue survives her triathlon. But if you're watching, definitely hit the subscribe button and hit the like button while you're at it, because that helps us a lot. And leave us a comment, leave us a review, whatever underneath. If you want to start a conversation, that's great. I always respond to anybody who makes a post under the YouTube video, so feel free to do that. The other thing is, if you're listening on Apple or listening on Spotify, you can leave us a 5-star review. We love that. You can leave us a review of something you heard or what you like about the show, recommended to somebody, all this stuff. Really, really helps us as we continue to do this show and to grow this show. And in 10 years, we will be sitting here old and gray. Well, I'm already gray.
All right. And we'll see if I'll be gray. Because
yes,
I don't know.
Yeah, you may let it go.
I can't bite the bullet, man.
Can't do it, huh? Yeah. But in 10 years, we'll still be doing this thing, and hopefully you guys will still be there. So I want to talk a little bit about this movie. We're going to talk to Judy Reyes, who is the one of the stars of a movie called Rebirth. And it's a crazy movie. It's about a maternity nurse whose daughter dies suddenly. And somehow the daughter's body winds up in the hands of this crazy mad scientist who reanimates the daughter using, I think, something related to birth. Amniotic fluid, I think.
Fluid, yes.
And brings the daughter back to life. And it's not like any movie I've ever seen. I could not have possibly, and I knew nothing about it when I turned it on. could not have possibly seen what was coming. It's really, really fascinating. So we're going to talk about that. Our guest today is best known for her roles on shows like the long-running Scrubs and Devious Maids. She's on the TNT crime comedy Claws. Her film work includes Gun Hill Road, Bringing Out the Dead, and Smile. And she's now an Independent Spirit Award nominee for Best Lead Performance for her role in Rebirth. It is streaming now on Amazon Prime and on Apple. Judy Reyes joins us. Hey, Judy, thanks a lot for coming on. How are you?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
Everything is great. We're excited to get you on. Rebirth is just a crazy movie. It is crazy. You've been nominated for an Independent Spirit Award, so congratulations on that.
Can you believe that?
That's awesome. That is awesome. That must be a great feeling, huh?
It is, and particularly when you're in the company of the people that I'm in, and you're like, and because it came out right when the strike started, so like nobody saw this movie, so the fact that it stood out, or the work that I did in it stood out, is like mind-blowing. It's the thing you forget about when you're working regularly, and then when it happens, you're like, what? It's really fun. It's a fun feeling. I can't even lie.
It's amazing because I looked at the nominees, and you're in there with Cate Blanchett, Natalie Portman, Jeffrey Wright. I mean, it's just an amazing group of actors in there, and I'm sure that's an incredibly special feeling. When you were when you got the script, as I mentioned, this is just a crazy movie. Right. What was your reaction when you read the script the first time?
I had to read it twice because at first I couldn't believe, Laura Moss is the writer-director, and they reached my representation and said I wrote this film with her in mind. You see my dog?
I love it.
What's your dog?
I love it.
He's like, who is she talking to? So I was and low budget independent film based on the whole pitch from both my manager and agent, super ultra low budget, but it's the lead immediately. You're an actor. Your ego's like, what? And I got it on the weekend and I read it, and I said, I want to make sure that I don't like it because of all the circumstances, So I read it again, and I showed it to my husband. I was like, that's good. That's good. As a parent, it made sense to me. So I just felt like I had to do it. Long story short, because the end result, of course, is a crazy, crazy thing that, a crazy journey.
Yeah.
Kept seeing it as a mom. So,
yeah,
like, what would you do? Would you do that? Would you do that? So the opportunity to put myself in that space and make this character make sense was something I've never had a chance to try, and I absolutely had to try. So
I knew nothing about the movie because I never like to know anything about a movie. I don't watch trailers. I don't read reviews. So I loved how this movie just kind of, in a sneaky way, just kept on building. And you had no idea what the hell is going on here, right. And how your relationship with Rose, you were so seemingly so opposite,
right? And
then it turns out that you kind of maybe one-upped her, quite a bit. So
it's a fascinating turn.
Mm-hmm.
Which became even more explicit as we were acting. I was with the magnificent Ms. Ireland, who's just so deadpan and so funny and so devoted to, I guess, the scientific existence of the whole thing, to the point where, Celie's lack of humanity frightens her. Just because just to get what you want, and that's it. And what people will do to get what they want, or to not face a reality or not to confront something, and how the tables turn on there was manifested for me much different than what I envisioned it, which was really a lot of fun.
So is the Frankenstein mythology, because it's certainly there, a variation of it. Is that something you'd ever thought of before?
In what sense?
Was that a something that fascinated you? The ability to resurrect or to reanimate a life?
Huh. Did it? I mean, I was well aware of it because the myth has been reincarnated from the beginning of cinematic time. You know what I mean? So, but was it fascinating to me? No, not until I read it. You know, it's not something that I investigated or pursued or anything, but I loved the idea. The idea was it's so prevalent for me in film, you know, and as women also, to be able to incarnate life in all ways and to be able to be party to it, because usually it's it's a misogynistic medium, you know, and it's always through the lens of the male. But to have it happen like this and to be able to be familiar with, as a nurse and as a parent, to be able to be that close to saving life and creating life all the time, and in Celie's case, to be so good at it, it just feels, I think, tangible to her. You know, if I can do it for other people, I got to do it for my kid.
Yeah.
You know, there was such brutal actions that both of you took to be able to complete this scientific experiment to resuscitate your daughter. As an actress, when you have subject matter like this, does this stay with you? Because it was so brutal. I mean, do you have to kind of like decompress?
It stays with you. You really do have to shake it off. It is, you know, you just have to completely surrender everything from the study of it to the actually, again, only recreating the moment for yourself in the most tangible way, you know, which it involves just kind of like a diving into it, you know, and also to be truthful when the experience is over. You're kind of sad the whole thing is over, just as a person of craft or as an actor. Let alone to have to let go and get out of the head of this person. You know, you do a great level of crashing and trying to figure it all out and shake it off. I have a handful of actor friends who have engaged recently in just a tragedy or a film of losses or horror. And when the experience is over, it just takes some serious shaking off. So the answer to that is yes.
Mm-hmm. So on our last show, Bryan Cranston was here, and we talked about Breaking Bad, and it made me think of your movie, because in the same way Walter White goes from mild-mannered school teacher to Heisenberg and drug dealer and drug kingpin, you kind of go from this woman who cares about the world. She's a maternity nurse. She is making the world a better place, and you kind of sink into this depravity over a series of time. So is that evolution fun to play? Because that you're a different person. Your character is a different person at the end than she is at the beginning. Is that evolution? You can see it on her face as you move along. Is that evolution something that you thought about?
I did. And because I guess it's to make her relatable and likable, right? Even in the midst of the crimes that she commits. And it is a lot of fun to play because oftentimes people are so concerned about being likable, you know, and to have to be actually exist in the journey, right? To play from beginning to end and make sure that she is seen as a person, you know. It's a rare opportunity is what it is, you know, to have to like really dive into, I guess, what she would do, what people do to like keep what they have, right? Not to give it up.
Yeah.
And how cruel that is, and how you'll make it better the next time. You'll make it better the next time. And that I couldn't even play without the incredible leadership of Laura Moss, who also co-wrote that script. She had a really incredible ability to hold back in order to make Celie deliver that brutal vagueness that people have so much trouble relating to when they're experiencing that movie. You know what I mean? So often, my deliveries were much more emotional than what she would actually craft for me, and that was a lot of fun to play. I'd be like, "What? You sure?" And then you see it, and it's like, "Yeah, they were sure," you know.
So your daughter in real life's name is Layla, and the character's name of your daughter is Layla as well. Was that coincidence?
That's utter coincidence. And my kid is a non-binary trans, and they are now Ray, which was a great thing. And these kids, interestingly, the actor AJ was a wonderful little girl and so true and so present and just absolutely loves everything about being in the set. When my kid came to the set, they both bonded incredibly. But yeah, that was a total coincidence that actually worked in our favor. Everything about it, and I got along and completely fell in love with AJ and her mom. But yeah, it was a total. I don't know, is it a coincidence, really?
Yeah, maybe it's not. Sure,
maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
A gift of the universe, I would call it.
Yeah, sometimes all the planets line up.
Yeah, that it always serves as an actor to see things as gifts from the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right.
There is one line in Birth, Rebirth that I think kind of captures the whole movie. It's where Celie says, "Dignity and motherhood don't always line up." Now, you are a mom. She obviously is in this situation. To expound on that, what's that line like?
The things that you would do, right, for your kid, to protect your kid, to even get rid of your kid every now and then. You know, it's things that you'd never see yourself, things you'd say, ways you react. I see myself being my mother all the time, you know, things that you would swear you would never do or say, ways you would never lose your patience. So it's everything that you would do, and to protect and to save and to cure and to heal, you know, and to for the survival of your kid. There's nothing that you wouldn't do. You know?
Yeah. It's like the ultimate,
right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like the ultimate test of how far you'll go, you know?
There's no real question, though, right? How far will you go?
Yeah.
You never know until you're there, and then before you know it, it's done. So there's no real question.
I want to ask about Scrubs, if that's okay.
Of course.
So you played Nurse Carla Espinosa for 8 years. Such a great ensemble, Zach Braff and Donald Faison and John C. McGinley and on and on. What made that show such a success?
Well, first, let me say that in terms of Birth, Rebirth, I saw that script and I was like, fuck, another nurse.
Right. I was going to ask you about that. You do play a nurse a lot.
So that when I approached it, I got the offer. I was like, all right. But once I started reading it, I really appreciated how the inspiration all came from Scrubs, you know, and from Scrubs, all things were born. The job was the best time I'd ever had. It was my first big job. I'd done like 6 or 7 pilots before then that never got picked up. So I wasn't really attached to anything, and I didn't know what to expect. So I was like, if this is what all TV shows are like, this is the dream job. It was the dream job. It was a lot of fun. All of us were brand new. I was a little older than Zach, Donald, and Sarah, who I just saw on a Netflix movie the other day called Friends from College. Just absolutely gorgeous and wonderful. It was absolutely crazy. What you see on the show is what went down. There were practical jokes everywhere, gags, pranks. Everything was in the same building. We all shot in that hospital. So everybody would be blowing into the writer's room all the time. And I think we were all so close in the same environment that the personalities of all the characters on the show were really spawned from everybody being around and understanding each other and being inspired by it. But it was the best time. That thing was crazy. It was so much fun. I've been really fortunate to work shows with people who have become part of my life. Right after that, I did Devious Maids, still friends with all those women, and Claws, an incredible group of people. But Scrubs definitely set the bar really high. And the other thing I can say about Scrubs is that, you know, during COVID and during the strike, a whole new generation got to understand, revisit, and get to know that show.
Yeah.
And you forget what that means to you, because that show meant so much and continues to mean so much. I get people in the airport say, I want you to know your show got me through the pandemic, through the strike, your show this. And it always means an incredible amount, you know, that you can make that kind of an impact on someone with your work, with your art, with anything that you were a part of.
Yeah, you know, getting back to Birth, Rebirth, you know, I read that it was supposed to be done during the pandemic, and then it was shelved for a little while. And I just thought how ironic that it was resuscitated, just like the title. Did you ever think that maybe it wasn't going to happen?
No, it came to me once the pandemic was over, once closed. Okay. So it was already set to go, and that's when it came to me. So I didn't have anything to consider, because once it came to me, it was up to me to agree to play that role. And that was that, you know, and it was just a thrilling opportunity to really build and craft a role. I just found my my notebook where I would just journal every day, every scene, as the character, as the person, and find new things to stay in that character. And then remembering, to your question earlier, does it take a while to shake that off? And just to open that book, you're like there again. Like, oh, wow, that's right.
Is that something that you ordinarily do, that you journal when you're working on a project?
I do. I journal as the person, as the role. I just give them a history, a background, and address in the character what exactly is going on in the scene, just to stay present and alive and know who I'm being, you know.
Is that something that you share with co-stars and the director, as far as what you've created for yourself, or that's just for you personally?
Not what I write, but I do discuss who this person is, where they came from, and what of, and how do you think, you know, particularly with the writer, you know, but then whatever background is mine to give, you know, that's what me as the actor brings to whoever they will.
You know, talking about Birth, Rebirth, you've had 2 series that were canceled and then picked up somewhere else. So you had Scrubs, which jumped from NBC to ABC, and you had Devious Maids that went from ABC to Lifetime. It is Birth, Rebirth. What was it like to be in that sort of limbo between networks when you thought you were canceled, I assume?
We did. It was such a brief transition, though, and we went to, what was it, NBC to ABC? It was so long ago, I can't even remember. Immediately. So, yeah, it was an interesting transition, but still, it was such an intimate group of a community that it was almost a rebellion. So it worked in our favor, and led by the fearless Bill Lawrence, who was like, well, okay, then we're going to go to this place. And our fearless leader gave us always nothing to worry about, just great stories to tell. And we were so much more, so much happier there, so much more creative and productive and nutty and wild.
You told us off the air that you're coming off of COVID. I'm glad you're feeling better. But that you binged while you were sick. What did you binge on?
I finally saw The Queen's Gambit.
Oh, so good.
So good.
Yeah.
I'd watch it, and I'd dream about it. It was so good. And this wonderful English series called One Day.
I don't think I know it.
Oh, it's in the top 10 of...
Is it?
Netflix, yeah, well, in my top 10, you know, it depends on what you're watching and who's watching.
Yeah, the algorithm, sure.
What a lovely, lovely show, television show, beautifully shot, incredibly performed, and so funny. I also saw Players. Gina Rodriguez's film.
Yeah.
Irresistible, and a really funny and just a good time. What else did I see? Oh, and I started watching this wild, crazy, ridiculous, hilarious show called Friends from College. starring Keegan Michael Key.
Yes.
Yeah, Keegan-Michael Key.
And Annie Parise from Law and Order. This just hilarious ensemble cast of crazy actors. They obviously do a lot of improv. It can be completely stupid. It's about this group of friends, who a dysfunctional group of friends who are still friends from college, you know, and how they're just a little too close and they're not very good for each other. And what I enjoy about it is that they are really shameless about being stupid, silly, unlikable, you know, and then they can be like side-splittingly funny. So that's what I watched.
You know, it's award season. You're part of award season this year, which is exciting. Have you seen any of the other movies that are nominated? Yeah. What moved you from this last year of movies?
American Fiction stays with me.
So good.
Wow, what
so
a
smart.
What a film. So smart and so well performed. And I saw it a couple of times. What's that? The Nicole Kidman film? What is that one? That she's
Yikes.
God, I don't know what the name of it
May December.
Oh, May December. Yeah, that was
also Hunting.
Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore. Julianne Moore.
And I'm sorry, Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman.
That film actually just utterly haunting and brilliantly acted. What else can I tell you? I can't remember the names.
Did you see Oppenheimer?
Yes, I loved Oppenheimer.
So good, right?
It was so good. And I also loved Scorsese's film.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
The Flower Moon. I appreciated that I could see it on my computer because that's a more a devastating and difficult film to go through. There's a lot to stay with, you know. But I thought it was beautiful and beautifully acted and just heartbreaking. Thank you for mentioning those two, because I was just thinking of the indie film nominees.
Yeah. Now, when you go to the Independent Spirit Awards, I've not been. Is it like the Oscars? Like, does it matter?
Yeah.
What you wear in the red carpet and all that stuff?
I think it's it's independent in spirit. Although throughout the years, it has actually gotten more important and a little bit more glamorous. But I appreciate the fact that, I can dress myself and find a really cool dress. I think it's all about kind of like going to the Grammys of films, just a little more chill, but still as special in terms of how it recognizes people who fund their own films, trying to get out there without the studio support. And that's a really good thing to be a part of, coming from the theater scene in New York City. It's like, like having an off-Broadway award show. Yeah. Well, it's hard to put out their art there for people to see. And it's always wonderful to see, to have it be part of its appreciation.
Well, listen, this has been great. Rebirth is fascinating and twisted and weird and inventive. It's so good. And it is available, at least for now, for rent on Apple. Yes, you should definitely go check that out. And we wish you great luck at the Independent Spirit Awards. Have a fantastic time, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Very nice talking to you.
You too.
Bye.
There you have it, Judy Reyes. And as we said, crazy ass movie. I'm telling you, it's like a horror film starring a mom.
So
that should be the pitch.
That should be the pitch. So it was actually inspired by the Mary Shelley Frankenstein book.
Oh yeah, that's why I asked her if she'd ever.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like she had necessarily thought that through. We actually talked about dog cloning, which is a little bit like the same thing that happens in Rebirth. But this idea of reanimating somebody, and it's a year for that, because Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, is basically the same thing. A Frankenstein-like guy sort of invents this woman played by Emma Stone, and she kind of learns how to be a person. I think it's very, very similar thematically with Rebirth. Great movie to watch. You can rent it on Apple, rent it on Prime. It's really, really good. It's not like anything you've ever seen. Promise. All right, there you have it. There's our Culture Pop podcast for today. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate you, and we will see you next time on the Culture Pop podcast.